Hello, I'm Tan the TMBOTC channel, and this is something that I wasn't sure if I should talk about. I'm probably also late on technically, but I thought I'd talk about it anyways because it is something that is important to me personally. And now you can just take, once again, just take it as my own personal opinion. You don't have to frickin' look at it. I mean, you should already have that mindset to begin with, yet I've gotten stupid comments that say otherwise, so frick off. But I'm just wondering, and I know the title obviously would lead you to probably think otherwise without even watching or giving crap about the video. But there's some videos I've been running into. I can only find one of them though, but I've run into different YouTubers. They don't even need the title of what I'm about to show. And I actually had to type it in specifically too into YouTube just to find some of these videos. But even back then, like there's people trying to research, or and I think it's because millennials, like for example Frostbreak, giving older games or whatever, a try uh, from a new perspective of somebody who hasn't played them back in the day. So I can see why, but I don't entirely personally agree. Uh, and I'll give my own personal reasons. Also, I'll give some other like examples of like other YouTubers that I feel did a really good job covering how I feel about the frickin' game. But there's like these different YouTubers and stuff. You got stuff like this. YouTubers I even like that either defend this game or don't, or say it's better than what they're saying, or the criticism is stupid and stuff. Actually, ironically enough, I have another page open for Critical Nobody, but he's just right here anyway. So I'll just point out that Critical Nobody is the perfect example of how I feel towards this game. Uh, it is not as good, Michael Bay presents, as good as like people make out. I just really don't care for this game. And I want to talk more into detail why that he's already talked about. So the older Resident Evil games, and I know the stupid thing, and like somebody's gonna bring up of like, oh, it's old though, it's jank, it doesn't age as well. I aren't on I think that's the similar thing to Dark Souls, where the way Dark Souls tells its story. First off, Dark Souls has gameplay emphasized over story. So anybody who thinks the story should be the emphasized part, or they care more about that than they do the gameplay, it's called a freaking video game. I think you're freaking just looking in the wrong areas, honestly. But also, there's not many games like Resident Evil, other than maybe some indie games from developers that are fans of those types of games that want to recreate what Resident Evil and Silent Hill and such did with like the fixed camera angles. There's not many games like that anymore, where we see a lot of third person shooters. These just don't stand out quite as much as they used to. And third person shooters are my preferred shooters. I like to be able to see my character and what clothing or armor I'm wearing, how dope and badass I look. But with this game was just really short. Nemesis, it feels like he's barely in it as the Nemesis we typically know him as, and he just doesn't feel quite as scary, or he doesn't stand out as that scary. I have to mostly, and while I think I do like at least one of his boss battles, I hate the rest of them though. They're freaking trash. Um, and freaking annoying. They are easy to get through, and it is an easy game to speed run, but that feels more like a problem. I want a little bit more challenge to it. And even though I have problems with the Resident Evil 2 remake, at least it feels like it's a good length of a game, even for speed running, where you can make it feel a lot shorter. I liked it more. Hell, Mr. X is technically feels like has a stronger presence than Nemesis does, and they're basically doing almost a similar shtick, other than the fact that Nemesis has a couple other new moves. There needed to be, they cut out like the clock tower, and freaking I kind of wish he was in the sewer level parts, but whatever. even some cut enemies and such. This stuff has already been talked about back in the day, and I just feel like I'm recycling what other people have already talked about. So I don't know why it needs to be freaking repeated, but apparently it does. Once again, it is my opinion. I know somebody's going to take it as something else or whatever, but I don't know. I I hate how short it is. I will say the cutscenes are pretty cool. The I'm not a big fan of the redesign of Jill. When I see Jill is actually my video game crush, my first video game crush. I love her design. She's got a very I think it's after the Resident Evil 1 remake. She has a very particular look to her character and her design. She's got that anime-ish face with the big eyes almost. She's got a look that I recognize her for, and this just doesn't look like Jill to me. There's something that this is off. I also I've talked about this freaking haircut before with like the cyberpunk haircut. Like, come on, what? With the freaking bigger, poofier, longer hair on one side and then it's shorter on the other. Frick off. Then he has to have, he doesn't even look like the same guy from the games if you made him into a 3D model. Like, that's not even the same hair and all that crap. It's so weird. I've been complaining about hairstyles recently and stuff, but whatever. Uh, I still think it's something I have a problem with, whether minor or not. And while it's not a bad design, it's just not really my Jill Valentine. I don't know. You could have still made that look work or whatever, or have something else. I don't know. Eh, and like, I love the original game. It's probably my personal favorite other than Resident Evil 1 Remake. But I should probably play the original for the channel. And finally, the last thing is I don't know if a lot of people knew this, but Resident Evil 2 and 3, especially back in the day, actually had like diverting storyline stuff and such. There were changes within the story and actual like choices too. Um, that played out kind of, I wouldn't say telltale games, but kind of like one of those decision making, maybe more similar to Clock Tower in how it handles that. But it was pretty cool for the time. And besides cutting out entire levels or even not having much of, on 2 feet Nemesis instead of almost immediately on 4 legs Nemesis, which I hate. Uh, More animalistic. I don't think the design's bad. I just wish we had more of Nemesis on 2 feet instead of 4 legs. Nothing to do with the quadrupedal. No. But I want to see more of him just chasing you around, more going on with his character's animations and attacks that he gets later. Even when they give him like that boss fight with the flamethrower and then the rocket launcher after, those parts are also very short-lived. And they're also, because they're very scripted feeling, they just don't give a lot of time to breathe and such, where the original game did, and in my opinion, even with its aged parts, can still somewhat be scary. Because of how unpredictable Nemesis was back in that game. I actually have that, by the way, for on my PlayStation because I'm so glad they did that backwards compatible. I bought it a long time ago and now it's backwards compatible for me to play, and I'm like, I, I should do that for the channel sometime. The original Resident Evil 3. It's like one of my favorite Resident Evils of all time, next to the first game Remake. And I have a soft spot for 5. Just because 5 kind of reminds me of like a dumb Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie turned into a video game. But Though we technically have games like that, but I love it. It's also got a little bit of Matrix in there with frickin' Albert Wesker. Both games with great villains, by the way. Albert Wesker's iconic as hell, and I know he's been a villain in other games, but that's where he truly shined and became iconic. Hell, whenever they use Albert Wesker in a Marvel vs. Capcom game, the design you typically see is the one from 5. There's a reason that is such an iconic design, even in Dead by Daylight, and I know they have alternate costumes, but still, that's the design you see in all the advertising. And then Resident Evil 3, you have freaking Nemesis, one of my favorite monsters in the series. Stars! And he's like a Pokemon. I actually kind of like the second Resident Evil movie. I think those movies are dumb, but I have a soft spot for it, not only because of Jill Valentine and the actress they chose for her there, but also for freaking Nemesis, and that he's actually like a practical costume design uh, dude in a suit. I have a soft spot for that movie. And I guess the one that's like a Resident Evil if it was Mad Max setting. But I don't like those movies either way. I know a lot of people have a soft spot for the first movie. I actually have the review from Nostalgia Critic. I prefer. Uh, I I'm not a fan of those movies, as well as I honestly thought that the first of those Resident Evils were also kind of boring. Um, and there's problems with the ones I like too, but we're not talking about those. But I'm pretty much done talking about what I have to say with these. But yeah, Critical Nobody really says a lot of like how I feel about that freaking remake, and I can see why you like it as a speed running game and stuff, but I think it's honestly, if I was somebody who was a speedrunner and I wanted something that was speedrun friendly or even like a challenge for me, that uh, like I truly was going to get into wanting to speedrun. This is actually the most boring game of them, and I have done a little bit of speedrunning of some of the other Resident Evils. I'm of course nowhere up there, not even freaking close, but I do like to speedrun on my own time. Um, and Resident Evil 2 remake, as well as I think it's 7, maybe I can't remember some of the other ones, but yeah, like they're fun for me because they can add somewhat of a challenge or have some really cool directions and exploits you can do to get past certain parts. And I just found none of that fun, even if it does have that stuff with the Resident Evil 3. Because Resident Evil 3 was honestly, even on the hardest difficulty, way too easy and it got kind of boring. I actually had to make my own fun. For example, if I wanted freaking Nemesis to actually be a challenge. It's ironically probably the only game that you don't need to uh, worry about. Why, first off, why did they even do the freaking microtransactions of here, all unlocks by That's so stupid, but if like it's the easiest game to get all the unlocks, honestly. I got them practically one speed run later, maybe two on the hardest difficulty, but it is really not that challenging. There's maybe a part that's challenging, which is the horde mode with Carlos, but other than that, I just didn't find much challenge with that and got immediately bored. So I had to make fun with Nemesis as well, where I would have those cool ass weapons that you can get unlocking the game, like that freaking flaming knife, and I would just be in the air. The only areas that Nemesis can actually freaking go to, the only cool things about the only cool thing I will say about Nemesis is he can go into certain safety rooms. That is the only thing that I genuinely think is kind of cool. But other than that, there's just not much he can do, and there are still other rooms and places you can go into that he can't. So it kind of makes that look a little pointless or just mediocre in comparison. And I was honestly way more scared of frickin' Mr. X. And the game was fitting to that. There are some cool game mechanics like the dodge and stuff. the slow-mo dodge. But other than that, just way too short of an experience and not enough Nemesis. There's my problems. Just put that on the cover of the box. Too short, not enough Nemesis. At least on two legs. But like he's such a threat in the original, him rushing you and crap. He does do a rush thing where he'll run at you. That is terrifying when it happens, but like because you don't see him as often, or like the parts where you do see him, he's just not there long enough to make you see that stuff or react to that stuff all as much. You have to legitimately stay in that area, like I was talking about, and let him do that stuff so you can eventually see that. And I'll do this thing where I'll just challenge him to a frickin' fight. I'll just stand there readying my flame knife and just whacking away at him in a fist fight. As if it's some sort of final boss in Metal Gear Solid 4 or something. But that's like the most fun I get out of it, and I I just I don't know. It's the one remake too that I dropped the fastest. I'd play the original, I'd play the second one, I'd play the fourth remake, but I barely pick up the third one anymore. It is the one I approached the least of all four of those. And even then, you have to count the other Resident Evil games that we have nowadays, like 7, 8, 9. And even if you're returning to older ones, like 5, even freaking 6. That's a slim one to say, but I have even returned to 6 to play. It's a dumb game with a dumb plot, but it's still kind of fun in the gameplay department. I just hate the freaking story and such. There's only certain parts of it that work for me, but otherwise, dumb as hell. Hell, I'd even go back and play frickin' Operation Raccoon City just to see how fricking terrible and goofy it is. But nonetheless, that's pretty much all I want to say on that. I can't wait for the new Resident Evil movie. That looks interesting. That's something at least that's going to be cool. It's so funny we have a Silent Hill and a Resident Evil movie this year, but I'm about to watch the new Silent Hill, by the way, because I have, though I'm in line for it, I have it being rented out at my local library, and I'll be watching it soon to see how it is. I did not hear good things about it, so I'll let you know what I think. And yeah, but I have a feeling the Silent Hill movie is not as good, probably not going to be nearly as good as the new Resident Evil movie, so that's sad. I kind of wish it was because it's got the director of the first one, and I was actually rewatching the first Silent Hill movie, which I really love that movie. It's actually become one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It's not my favorite definitively. If you want to ask me my favorite horror movie, I would go with The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, the first one, not the frickin' prequel. Frick that movie. I also love Alien. I think of Aliens more as an action movie than horror, but I do really love that too. And then I love the Evil Dead movies, especially Evil Dead 2. More of a comedy horror, but still great. Another comedy horror I love is House, with America's Greatest Hero. um, but yeah, those are some of my favorite horror movies, and then like Silent Hill is not far from those. Um, I do like Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween, probably mostly two. Two is the most fun and the most serial killer feeling of them, of those movies where there's the fun kills and just ridiculous, like character getting the crap beaten out of him from his eyes shot out to freaking set on fire in a blazing explosion. Most ridiculous when he felt like he was invincible. But anyways, I think that is it. I will end with my goofy voices I usually do. If you did enjoy, like, share, and subscribe. Leave your comments below, and I'll see you next time. Bye, Jimmy's mom. That's about it. See ya. Yeah, I see Penguin Zero as a goofy voice. Transform and roll out. Stars. Ground.